Hey From fam, welcome to the Binge Zone. On today's video, we're talking about From Season 3, Episode 6, where Tabitha just revealed that she's been to Fromsville before as a child, while simultaneously confirming that there is a creature in the settlement, which due to her argument with Jim in the beginning of the episode, he's heading straight for that creature. Victor and his dad made it deep into the heart of the caves where they finally found Jasper, and the creatures woke up during the daytime but let them live. Is there something deeper behind that? And I think Jade may have just confirmed that the multiverse exists in this universe. So guys, hit up Julie Marley because apparently she's the plug. Light up your joints, kick your feet up, hit the subscribe button because we're diving deep into From Season 3, Episode 6. I want to start off with the beginning of the episode where we find Jim arguing with Tabitha. This argument has a direct correlation with what we find out at the end of the episode. The fact that Tabitha, just like Miranda, has always been getting visions of this place even before she got here. And Tabitha actually saw whatever it is that's walking around the old settlements. As a child, she knows what's out there. And guys, don't forget, earlier this season, Jade destroyed the ward that was keeping the creature at bay. And now Jim is heading back to that settlement as a result of his argument with Tabitha. If I know anything about this show, I know something's about to go down next episode, because with Jim going over there, it's not lost on me that this episode again starts with Jim. Throughout this season, we saw in multiple episodes how Fromsville was messing with Jim's mind, whether it was calling him pretending to be Thomas or calling Ethan pretending to be Thomas, just to tell Jim that his kids aren't his anymore. And at the start of this episode, it's another conflict with Jim about Thomas, and now we find out more about Jim and Tabitha's relationship and how they both dealt with the loss of Thomas. And the way Jim is being portrayed this entire season, well, the entire show, if we're being honest, we see the cracks in his family structure, and now it starts to make sense as to why the kids don't have the relationship that Jim wants them to have with him, and why Tabitha kind of resents him, because this was a last hurrah to save their marriage from the divorce. And because of this last hurrah, they ended up right here stuck in Fromsville. And guys, y'all remember in the first episode of this season, Jim was the first one to find the settlement, and now he's going to be the first person to actually interact with the creature. It only makes sense. Him being the first one hearing it, and the fact that Tabitha has seen it already and there's a connection there, and Jade ties into it by breaking the ward, which could be leading to another massacre, similar to the massacre that happened when Victor was a child. Because as the episode goes on, one of the theories I felt like was confirmed. There is a pattern of repetition when it comes to Fromsville, and that's because we found out that there's a second bottle tree. Initially, I thought there was only one bottle tree, the one that Tabitha went through, and I initially thought that the tree that Boyd and Sarah saw in the first season was just the same tree that Victor and Tabitha saw in the second season. But no, it's actually a completely separate tree, and it makes a lot of sense if we're following the reincarnation / repetition theory. And the numbers that are inside the bottles in this bottle tree are the exact same as the numbers in the other original bottle tree. And it's like Dead Tom was telling Jade, it's a pattern if you can find it. I did notice though that once Jade started messing with the bottle tree, Tom started to seep doubt into his head. That reminds me of what happened in season 1 when Boyd started messing with the bottle tree that he found and the town started messing with Sarah's head. Tom let us know that the bottle trees are not natural to the town. Someone created it, and that may be the way to get out of this town. So I'm keeping an eye on that. The patterns are duplicating themselves, and the numbers represent years, and those are the same years that we saw in the tower in season 1 when Tabitha was walking through it. Now more than ever, I feel like these numbers really represent years in time. Tom then brings up the Civil War soldier, but then dismisses it as Jade's mind playing tricks on him. But if you pay attention to the one date that keeps popping up over and over again, it's 1864. 1864 was a pivotal year in the Civil War. That's the year that Abraham Lincoln appointed Ulysses S. Grant, future president, as head of the Union Army, and that totally shifted the tides of the war, which ultimately, as we know, the Confederates lost and the Union won. And it's during that point that I believe that this Civil War soldier ended up in Fromsville, and all the people that Jade are seeing are just past inhabitants that were here and died here, which is why the years play such a pivotal role. And even in the end, Ethan notices a pattern where the numbers actually flip, and Jade kind of dismisses it. But if I know From like I know From, this is important. And the reason I think it's important is because the years are a cycle that repeat themselves, and then you have an exact mirror. Earlier in the episode, Jade was trying to tell Boyd the difference between a wormhole and a dimensional rift. Jade was telling Boyd that it's not a wormhole. The trees are more like dimensional rifts. And the fact that this universe, the one that Fromsville inhabits, has two. Back in Camden, we know Miranda had a bottle tree, and there's also a sister bottle tree in a park nearby, I think that's starting to confirm my theory that they're in a pocket dimension. And with that pocket dimension and the fact that dates are playing a big factor in it, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a big time travel element coming soon to this show. Speaking of time, Victor and his father Henry are making up for lost time. As this episode goes on, I'm starting to lean away from the fact that Henry might be evil or have ulterior motives. But again, I'm still keeping my eye on him, but his bond with Victor seems sincere enough, but it doesn't explain why the monsters in the cave did not attack Henry. This episode mainly focused on Victor and Henry's bond as they make their way to the cave, and I thought Victor using the toys as mile markers as he goes deeper into the cave was brilliant, and it shows his ingenuity and how he was able to survive so long in this place. Also, how he was able to draw so many maps and have so many locations, because after living here for 40 years, Victor created a nice system of mapping out the area, and I personally thought seeing it in action was pretty cool. When they finally get in the caves, Jasper isn't where he was and they have to dive deeper into the caves. When they got deeper, things got really weird because Jasper was set up at a dinner table with tea in front of him, almost as though the monsters were playing dolls with him and they were sleeping. It makes you wonder, do these things teleport or are the monsters taking things and living out fake lives? I'm curious because Victor told his father this episode the monsters are known to take things after Henry realized that they had clothes that belonged to Miranda. But to me, just the thought of it is ridiculous. Imagine the monsters sitting around a table playing dolls and like what? And when Victor takes Jasper and the monsters wake up, instead of attacking Victor and Henry, they give Victor a warning telling him, hey, you're starting to come to the caves too much. If you come again, you might not leave, threatening him, but not attacking him. That's interesting. Why would they not attack Victor? In all the previous seasons, they've killed almost every human they've come across. But this season, we see them not kill Randall. We see them negotiate with Boyd, not kill Boyd. And we see them talking and negotiating with Victor and not killing him. I know Victor has direct connections with Miranda being his son and she's the chosen one of a previous generation. But it's still strange, why would they not attack Henry? Because based on Henry's conversation with Victor about Jasper, he doesn't believe Jasper's going to give any answers. It's just a toy. But we know better than that. We saw the vision. We saw Jasper talking. Or it could be Henry trying to dissuade Victor because it still doesn't make sense. Why would they not attack Henry? I can understand letting Victor go, but I'm still going to keep my eye out on Henry. Not just Henry, but Randall. Because when Randall finally woke up, the seething hate you saw in his eyes, I'm telling you guys now, there's going to be a confrontation between Randall and Boyd. Boyd has been actively avoiding Randall throughout the episode. You can see the feeling of being abandoned really does something to Randall, because when Maria invites him to stay with them in the clinic, he's more than ecstatic. Like, he cries of tears of joy, like he's finally being accepted. And now he's forging a bond between him, Marielle, and Julie. The three whose souls were attacked by the town last season are now trauma bonding, and I believe that's the start of an alliance. They have a bond no one else can understand, and Randall needs as much allies as he can get. But you do start to see a fracture from Boyd's power base as Kenny moves to Colony House. Instead of staying with Boyd in the police station, you can start to see Boyd's power base breaking, and you see that on his face throughout this episode, because when he's dealing with Fatima and Ellis, the news that she's not pregnant, I feel like Boyd knew something was wrong the moment Ellis and Fatima told him everything. He knew, Frumsville, something is going on. But it's interesting because Fatima took a pregnancy test and it said she was pregnant and she's getting these cravings. But if there's nothing there, what does that mean? Is she craving these things? Is she transforming? And why exactly would Tilly tell her that people who are pregnant have these weird cravings? And Tilly was the one who found out first, and Tilly has a connection to Elgin. And Elgin again saw the lady in the kimono this episode in a picture with Fatima, showing that there's a connection between the three of them. The lady in the kimono made a proposition to Elgin and she can help them escape from the town, which is where I think it comes in direct conflict with Tilly, because I have a theory. Tilly first got to the town, she gave all her meds to the clinic and said she has cancer and doesn't have long to live. But to me, what's interesting is the fact that this show is from the same creators of Lost. In Lost, there was a character named John Locke who was paralyzed, and once he got to the island, his paralysis healed and he could walk. Anyone who had any ailments, so long as they stayed on the island, they were healthy and living and thriving. There was another character who had cancer, Rose, and Rose did not want to leave the island either, because as long as she stayed on the island, she would not die of her cancer. Now, if we take this and apply it to Tilly, as long as she stays in Frumsville, she won't die of this cancer. But if there's a way for them to get out, would she want everyone to get out when she could actually stay? Which could be why she knows there's something wrong with Fatima and she's not telling anybody, because she was the one who did the tarot reading. And when that happened, she was about to tell Fatima something before the crows came and stopped her. And we know the crows played a significant role in From as messengers or warning signs of evil, and the fact that the crow came at that moment and then died in front of Elgin, who's now seeing the lady in the kimono. And guys, it's not lost on me that every time they start to get closer to unraveling a new mystery, that's when the Ankui kids decide to make an appearance. What if they're not actually looking for help and they may be the antagonist? That's something we need to keep in mind. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm going to figure it out and let you guys know in another video. But that's my thoughts on this week's episode. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts about it in the comment section below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and until next time, peace.